in the chat box. This is actually the first time I ever give this presentation. So I thank you all for your grace and space. There's probably slides that are going to be messy. There's probably parts I'm going to stumble, but I'll tell you what, I'm still going to give you my best, and we're going to get this thing underway. So thank you so much. This is how to get a great assistant. I know that webinars have a horrible reputation of being way too much hype and taking forever to get into the good stuff. So I'm going to cut straight into the fastest 3 tips that I can think of. So the very first tip I can think of is do not use email with your assistant. Email has way too many distractions coming into our inbox all the time. So instead, use a tool like Slack. I actually prefer a tool called Convo. Now, if you've never seen Convo before, this is what it looks like. Almost has a Facebook kind of feel. However, it's just you and your assistant or you and your team, if you've got a team, which allows everyone to just stay super focused on their work. The next tip is actually to use a tool called Loom. Loom allows you to record your desktop and talk while you're doing it. This is what Loom looks like. And if a picture says 1,000 words, then I guess video allows you to say many, many, many words very quickly to communicate with the people you're delegating to, including your assistant. Very fast, free, installs right into your browser, super, super easy. And the third is that $17 to $20 an hour is the right starting wage. So we've helped hire over 100 assistants now, and I've personally hired assistants for $4 an hour, and I've gone as high as $50 to $100 an hour for other assistants and contractors. And the sweet spot is $17 to $20 an hour. If it's a lot, if you're paying $40 an hour, $50 an hour, I promise you, you're way overpaying. And for the kinds of services that you can get, the best value for your dollar is 17 to 20. And if you're too much below this, you're really going to sacrifice talent. You're going to end up just fixing all the mistakes yourself. So thank you so much for being here. If you weren't here at the very first moment, my name is Tim Francis. I own a company called Great Assistant. 10 years ago, I was sitting in my basement. I had 3 roommates so I could cover my bills. But you know what? I was happy. I was working for myself. I controlled my time, and the future seemed unlimited. I was super free. Then the business started to grow, and I discovered that it wasn't the unlimited freedom that I dreamed of. With more clients came more minutiae, more rinse, wash, repeat work, which took me away from the work that I really wanted to do. I wanted to be out networking to meet new clients, but instead I was stuck sending invoices. I wanted to be creative, building new things, but instead I was stuck writing reports and handling paperwork. I wanted to get back to being healthy, working out, eating better, getting time with friends and family, but instead I was trapped inside my email inbox for hours on end. So I said, I know what I'll do. I'll get an assistant. And I'd read the 4-Hour Work Week. I tried going overseas, but I had big problems with time zone issues, language issues, and culture issues. As I was working with assistants, including those overseas, I realized I actually wasn't a very good leader myself, delegating and managing. And then I also realized that I didn't even know how to hire or train or screen or interview an assistant. And so it just all was more hassle than it was worth. So I just said, screw it, and I went back to doing all the work myself. Unfortunately, the business was growing, and that meant I had to work harder and harder and harder all the time. I had to choose between going to bed and taking care of myself or staying up crazy, crazy late hours to take advantage of all the opportunity that I could see. It wasn't sustainable. In fact, I ended up burning out. I got sick. I actually couldn't walk for 3 full months. And while I was laying in bed day after day, I put a stake in the ground. I said, no more horsing around with amateur, overseas, or beginner stuff. Enough is enough. I'm getting a North American assistant. Now, I'm telling you, I had no idea how I would afford a North American assistant because I knew they'd be more expensive than an overseas assistant. I didn't know what I'd even delegate to my assistant first. And nor did I really know how to train or manage them. And I'll tell you frankly, I was even nervous about giving up control to an assistant. But you know what? I'd already tried overseas. I had already tried doing it myself. And it was crystal clear that that would not work. And there was no turning back. So I took the leap. This is Sarah. I found her 5 years ago. We started small. She took a few tasks off my plate, which freed me to focus up more on the work I wanted to do. Strategy, high-level work, gaining new skills, and finding more clients. Because I was finding more clients and I was growing my skills, I was actually able to raise my consulting rate. I was at $40 an hour just 5 years ago. Then it went up to $50 an hour, then $100, then $250, then $500, and today it's $1,000 an hour. Now people will say to me, "Oh, Tim, of course you've got an assistant. You charge $1,000 an hour." And the fact of the matter is it's actually the exact opposite. I charge $1,000 an hour today because I got my great assistant back when I was charging only $40 an hour. So after my first 5 years, 3 roommates, trying overseas, of struggle, I had finally cracked the code. Since that breakthrough, I've spent another 5 years with my own great assistant, refining my overall method, and actually I've been helping other entrepreneurs as well. Entrepreneurs just like you. So it's now been 10 years in total, and I've helped hire over 100 assistants. I've taken all that experience and I've distilled it down into the best 45 minutes I can think of, which is today's presentation. Now, whether you've never had an assistant before, whether you've tried to have an assistant but it's failed, or you've currently got an assistant, but you're just not sure if you're getting the best that you could, today's presentation is for you. So the process of getting a great assistant is really 3 steps. It's vision, delegate, and then hire. And it's really important that you do them in that order. Most people will go out and they'll hire someone and then they'll say, okay, what do I got to delegate to them? And then once the assistant gets good at that, they go, oh shoot, I don't have a bunch of extra work for them. And what it really leads to is an assistant that has no work, and that assistant eventually quits, and you as the entrepreneur end up right back where you started. Super, super frustrating. And that's why that doesn't work. The right order is actually to flip it around. If you can have the vision first of the big picture of how your assistant is going to take things off your plate today, yes, but also in the weeks and months to come, then you can sort out what they should be delegated first, and then we can figure out who we need to go and hire. That's the right order. And that leads to unlimited growth and freedom. Now, obviously, I've said a lot here, and maybe it's a little bit conceptual, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. So let's talk about vision. This is the infinite growth loop. Both sides are required for a business to grow. On the right side, we've got seeing opportunity and solving. And we entrepreneurs are fantastic at seeing opportunity and solving problems. The other half is required though. Once we see the opportunity and we solve the problem, we need to kind of circle back and figure out how we're going to get other people to do all the repeating work, all the coordinating work, all the administration work. If we don't loop back and take care of that other half, we end up just seeing opportunity, solving something, and then we're on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And the great solution that we came up with, whether it's a product or a marketing campaign or whatever, it never gets repeated enough to actually make a difference for us. And so that's why stuck entrepreneurs end up in this loop right here. And we kind of end up getting somewhere, and then after that, you know, we end up getting somewhere. I gotta back this thing up. Sorry, guys. We end up getting somewhere, and then after that, going back down, and then figuring out the next thing, and then going back down. And it leads to a real flat line. And when we say we're gonna go on to the next thing, sometimes that's because what we're doing isn't working, and that makes sense, right? Because it's important to pivot in business. What's crazy though is when we go on to the next thing and we're abandoning something that was working. So there's a great quote from one of my mentors, his name's Keith Cunningham, and he says, how big would your business be if you still had every customer who'd ever hired you or had ever bought from you? And the crazy thing is we don't go back and do what was working. There's another great quote. Sometimes it isn't the things that we don't know how to do that bite us in the butt. It's when we don't do the things that we do know how to do. Now, as entrepreneurs, we usually hate doing all the rinse, wash, repeat stuff. We say it's too boring, or we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. But here's the thing, is if you had someone to help you, we would start seeing this phenomenon instead, where on that first bump, maybe something isn't working, so you pivot. But once you find something else that works, circle back. define it, get it delegated, give it to your assistant. Now they can rinse, wash, repeat, and then you can move on to the next thing. If you need to pivot a couple more times, no problem. You're out there, you're seeing opportunity, you're testing things out, you're seeing the solutions, and when something does click, there's money to be made, you're helping people, there's a great response. Double back, get that defined, get that delegated onto your assistant and onto the next thing. And this is where breakthrough comes from, and this is the exact path I followed along with my great assistant, Sarah, to go from $40 an hour as a consultant all the way up to $1,000 and up. So we want you to stay in seeing opportunity and solving problems, and we want your assistant to be repeating and coordinating all the rinse, wash, repeat type stuff, all the administration type stuff. So oftentimes when an entrepreneur says, well, an assistant is too expensive or I don't have the budget for that, I say, you know what? If this is really about your assistant and only your assistant, then yeah, it would just be a cost and now it just gets more expensive. But here's a big time shift that happened for me. I realized that my assistant was maybe not a revenue center, like she's not out there doing sales calls for me, she's not making money for the business, but she's actually a profit center. And it's my relationship with her. By her taking stuff off my plate, I can go do higher level stuff. I can put in an hour of training her and get 10 hours back. I can put $1 into hiring her and I can get $10 back. It's all about leverage, leverage, leverage. And for me, it's all about finding the spread. How can I pay my assistant 17 bucks an hour, 18, 19, 20 bucks an hour? And how can she take the work off my plate or he take the work off my plate so I can go do the $50,000 to $5,000 an hour work? Now, you may not think you've got $5,000 an hour work in your business, or maybe you do. I'm telling you, though, that you've got at least, almost every entrepreneur has a ton of $50 an hour work that they're just not getting around to. And before you know it, you will be up into the $1,000, $5,000 an hour type work. So a great example, this is one of our clients. We've walked her through the process that I'm describing today, all 3 steps. Her name's Nicole Holland. She's a podcast publicist. So when an entrepreneur wants to get into a bunch of different podcasts, they would hire her. And she's hired not just one assistant, but actually 3 assistants through us. And I've just been so inspired by her ability to see a vision of what's possible. So in the beginning, she had to figure out how could she get clients. And she figured out how she could get clients. And she realized there was just a few parts within that required her, and everything else she could hand off to her assistant. Then after that, there was actually providing her service. And so obviously as a podcast publicist, she needs to coordinate guests. She needs to make sure that headshots and show notes and all that stuff happens for all her guests. And she'd figured that part out. She'd solved that problem. She saw the opportunity. And then from there, she got down to handing that off to her second assistant. And now she's on to her third assistant with us. And that's helping her with a lot more of her personal type tasks, including personally managing her with just a huge range of different tasks. So it's really been inspiring to see how she has been able to get the vision. So I've got an exercise for you. This is something that some of our clients have done and reported just great results. So you can see here, it's keeping a journal for 3 days. I unfortunately in my presentation did not put in a link there to download a template, and I haven't uploaded that yet, so that's not available, but it's real simple. Just take a piece of paper, create a simple table, and keep a journal for 3 days. Each line is just 15 minutes, so 9 a.m., 9:15, 9:30, 9:45, 10 o'clock, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you'd like, you can even set a little beeper on your phone or on some kind of a timer. And every 15 minutes for the next 3 days, just write down, what am I doing right now? Then from there, in the next column over, at the end of each day, start asking yourself, what could I delegate and what is not delegatable? And just put a letter D next to what it is that you think you can delegate. And when you take a look at everything you can delegate, you'll realize that some tasks actually are fairly simple to teach and simple to learn. And when you see a task coming up again and again and again, we want that task to be the first that you delegate. So let's go to part 2, which is delegate. So we finished part 1, which is vision. We're now into part 2, which is delegate. So the biggest challenge is not that no one can do your work as well as you, at least not the bottom stuff. Maybe you can only do the really high level stuff like negotiating, selling, speaking. I get it. Yeah, for sure. Only you can do that. but it's amazing how much actually others can do to help you if you know how to unpack, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. It's also not that the task is kind of too hard to teach or that you can't trust the other person. Oftentimes, it literally just comes down to what you delegate. So that's unpacking the task, like I just mentioned, also the order of what you delegate, and then lastly, how you communicate that. And I'm going to help you with all of those in the next few minutes. If we were to ask this question, can a surgeon delegate all of surgery? The answer is absolutely no. I mean, it's just, if we say surgery, that's one huge task, and delegation is actually impossible. On the other hand, if we look at surgery and we break it into all the subtasks, delegation does become possible. So on the screen, this is just a crazy list of all the things that go into surgery. I mean, surgery is not just cutting a patient and replacing a hip or a heart. It's like so much paperwork and coordinating nurses and getting blood and getting tests and preparing the room and cleaning it up afterwards and doing checkups and prescriptions. Like, it is such a long process. It's probably like a 500-step process if we really think about it. So does a surgeon do all that? Heck no. The surgeon's job is really three things. And so these are three keywords to keep in mind for your own business. What is the strategy? So which surgery are we going to do and how are we going to do it? What is the high-level skill? And obviously for the surgeon, that's like actually cutting the patient and replacing the hip or whatever it is. And then thirdly is, what are the things that only the surgeon has access to? So for example, signing off on the final paperwork or signing off on a prescription, right? In my world, I have access to high-level entrepreneurs that my assistant doesn't, or that other teammates just don't. I'm the one who has the relationship with different influencers. So that would be an example from my world. So the surgeon does just those three things. That's it. And so if we take this exact same list of surgery and we start kind of putting it into different categories, we see that these top things, meeting with the patient, diagnosing their situation, reviewing x-rays, and then doing the last checkup when everything's done, that's all strategy type work. Actually doing the surgery is the high level skill. Signing off on the prescriptions is the high level access. And after that, you guys, delegation line. Everything else gets done by everyone else, not the surgeon. And so I want to know, how can you become the surgeon in your business? And the more that you can move towards that, the more that you get to do high-level work, the more money that you make, the more clients you can take on, the more that your business gets to grow. And so if we take this idea of strategy, high-level skill, and high-level access, and we start unpacking it into a business that's probably more common to a business that you and I have, I would say something like email marketing. If we take email marketing and we say, all right, so what here needs to happen? So we need to figure out who we're going to send the email to. We need to write the copy for the email. We need to upload that email, send a test, schedule it to go out. The strategy of this is who we're going to send the email to, what we're going to promote, and what's the call to action. The high-level skill and access is writing the copy for the email. Delegation line, then after that, everything else gets done by everyone else. So you might say, well, okay, does that really get me ahead though? Well, let's take a look at that. So figuring out what we're going to send, who we're going to send it to, usually that's about 10 minutes. Writing the copy itself is 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. And then uploading the email into Infusionsoft or MailChimp or Ontraport or whatever, setting up the broadcast, formatting it, clicking all the links, making sure it all goes out. Whoops, I hit that a little too soon. The slide said 35 minutes. So we basically cut the task in half. And if that task is happening like once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, all of a sudden, over the course of a month, you're saving 3-4 hours a month on that one single delegation. It adds up so quickly, you guys. So let's talk about delegation. There's really 3 levels of delegation. We can delegate tasks, and that is simply saying, like, to upload this email broadcast, open Infusionsoft, click on this, do that, paste this, send the test. Super straightforward. Then there's delegating decisions, and there's actually two levels of decisions. There's easy decisions and then there's hard decisions. So an easy decision would be to say something like, if someone emails us and it's a customer service question, you can handle it. and if it's one of these three issues, someone wants a refund, someone wants to interview Tim, or someone is telling us about a broken link on our website. And you can go ahead and take care of that. If it's something different than that, then send it and put it in my email inbox and I can handle it. So that's a very simple decision. There's nothing complicated about that. A hard decision would be something like booking a flight. If you think about it, there's so many if this then that type scenarios, right? Does Tim want an aisle seat or does he want a window seat? Does he want to be at the front of the plane or the back of the plane? What time of day does he want to fly, right? and what's most important? Is it the front of the seat or the plane, or is it the time of the flight? Like there's a lot of, like the flow chart on that would be very difficult. So that would be a hard decision. And then there's outcomes. And that's the most advanced of all. And that's where ultimately you want to get to with your assistant. So to give you an example, I'm about to go on a 4-city speaking tour. And I was able to say to Sarah, you know, I don't care exactly what tasks you do, and I don't care exactly which decisions you make. The outcome that I need is I need 4 rooms, Edmonton, Calgary, Denver, and Austin. I need each of those rooms to have capacity for about 20 people. And there needs to be AV there, and I want to spend less than $500 per room. And that's my outcome. And then she's going to go off and do whatever task she does, whatever decisions she makes, and voila, I've got a speaking tour. Sarah actually organized the entirety of our annual event last year. It had a $31,000 budget, and she came within 1.6%. And all I had to do was prepare the content and show up on stage. She took care of every pin, lanyard, every room rental, catering with the hotel. Like, I'm telling you everything. It was absolutely amazing. Now, she got there because she's a great assistant, not a $4 an hour Filipino, and or overseas person from whatever country. And she's been with me for 5 years, right? That's the value of a long-term assistant. So when we're picking tasks, we want to start with tasks that happen daily, ideally, or weekly. You don't want to be delegating tasks in the beginning that are monthly or once in a blue moon. You can get to those in the future, and Sarah does do a lot of those for me now, but where you can get those early wins, such a big deal, is the daily and weekly. And because you've hired a great assistant, the ceiling is much higher, and eventually, yes, they will get into the monthly and the once in a blue moon. So if we start putting all this together, a breakthrough entrepreneur is going to focus on this green square to start. And so these are tasks that are, simple tasks and simple decisions that happen daily and or weekly. That's what we want to delegate. In the future, we can get into harder stuff and outcomes and stuff that happens less frequently, but this is the sweet spot of how you're able to put in $15, $17, $20 an hour into an assistant and get some time back for you to go do the $50, $100, $500 tasks. So just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about, Sarah's first few tasks with me were like literally 5 years ago. She uploaded a podcast episode, she uploaded a blog post, and she took care of customer invoicing for me. Those are the first 3 tasks she handled for me because they happened regularly and they were simple tasks. And like I said, today she's now doing entire event management. And we had people flying in from India, Singapore, Canada, the USA, Australia. She came, again, within 1.6%. So I'm just going to run through some examples of the kind of tasks that you can delegate when you've got a great assistant. I've actually delegated my email inbox, and you guys, I swear this was one of the most terrifying things I ever did. And after I was successful, I went, oh my God, why didn't I do this earlier? Like, I realized it was so psychological in my head that it was more me stopping it than actually Sarah being able to do it. Now, if you're trying to get a $4 an hour assistant who barely speaks English, or even if their English is really good, just the time zones and the culture, it's a problem, right? So by having a great assistant, I've been able to delegate probably about 95% of my email inbox. I read and respond to maybe 5 to 10 emails a day. And there's sometimes I don't even check my email for a couple days in a row because Sarah is looking at everything first. And if there is something absolutely mission critical, she can just send me a message. I'll take a look at the one email and that's that. It frees me up so much, you guys. It's such a powerful choice. Sarah also schedules all my meetings, invoices clients, processes payments, prepares meeting notes so I can just show up and do the meeting, monitors bank accounts, coordinates my appearances, client documents, and travel, and much more. So I'll give you an example from someone else. So this is Allison. We've helped her go through the same process you're seeing today. She's a business coach and a podcaster. So she's handed off her email inbox to her great assistant, scheduling meetings and appointments, financial reviews, keeping her CRM up to date, uploading recordings into her students' members only area, handouts and homework for students, scheduling podcasts and guests, editing transcripts, map marketing assets, and her blog. An Amazon seller, this is Tyler, and we've also walked him through the 3 steps we've talked about today. We've helped him in his Amazon business with customer service. His assistant is taking over reconciling shipments, calling Seller Central, coupons, adding products to Amazon, lightning deals, submitting lost inventory disputes, email inbox, uploading content, keyword research, keyword rank, and so much more. And so Tyler said such an interesting thing a few months ago. He said, once I could see all the little tasks I was doing, it wasn't that hard to get them handed off to my assistant. I am so relieved. So for him, he was looking at all of surgery, which is too much. And what he really needed was to unpack it into the small pieces, into the tasks that were tasks and simple decisions, like we just talked about, that happen on a daily or weekly basis. And he started there, and now, like, this guy's on fire, and he's able to travel way more. He's able to check out more products. He's got way more products on Amazon now. It's really been inspiring to watch his business explode. So here's a super helpful tool for you. I'm going to put this in the chat box so you can get the link. If you go to www.greatassistant.com/100 tasks with an S, you can download a PDF. So there you go, greatassistant.com/100 tasks. It's in the chat box. And you can download a PDF I've put together. And actually, it's actually Sarah who put it together, truth be told. And on there, you can see over 100 tasks that I've delegated to Sarah. And hopefully that can stimulate some ideas for you. Okay, so the next part of delegation here is a tool called 360 Delegation. So once you can see the tasks to delegate, we got to get these things handed off to the assistant effectively. And it's not enough to be able to see the tasks. They have to be able to know how to do them and understand what success looks like. And so I invented this tool. This is a Tim Francis original. It's called 360 Delegation. It's super simple, but so powerful. The first part is vision, the second is resources, and the third is definition of done. So vision is simply explaining to your assistant what you want completed, by when, what are the milestones along the way, and showing them a sample of success. So if you want them to send an email broadcast, show them what a successful email looks like. If you want them to help edit a podcast episode, give them a successful episode, right? Show them a sample of success. It will do a world of good. Secondly is resources. So what kind of access do they need? Are there usernames and passwords? Is there training they need to take? Is there other people they need to work with? Maybe a graphic designer. How many hours is a reasonable amount for a first timer to complete in the beginning? And on and on and on and on. Lastly is definition of done. So what sign-offs are needed from you? If you have a business that has clients, maybe you have a client who needs to sign off on something. So maybe you've got a marketing agency. You need a client to sign off on a campaign before it goes live or something. Are there any specifications that you're needing, like 300 by 600 JPEG? And where are we going to store the finished product so that we can retrieve it in the future? Is there any double checking of the work that needs to happen, right? Is there any double checking by you, by the client, by another teammate, something like that? So this is a quick flyover of 360 Delegation. I encourage you to go to, it's actually my consulting website. I'll put this in the chat box as well. Is profitfactory.com/360 delegation, and bookmark that page. Bookmark that. I'm telling you guys, I don't know how many years it's been since I've invented 360 Delegation. I myself literally still go back and refer to this checklist at profitfactory.com/360 delegation when I'm writing 360 delegations to my team, including my assistant Sarah. And here's the best part. They will also use that tool when they're asking me to do something. So if my marketing person says, hey, Tim, I need you to go onto Facebook Live. I need you to say these 3 things, and this is the call to action. He will write a 360 delegation, send it to me, and bing, bing, bang, boom. It's right there. It's super easy. I know exactly what I need to do. I show up, I do my part, and off I go. So, I think that oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we hear a lot in the marketing and sales training that we take. It's like, hey, this one launch could change your life, or this one funnel, will change everything. And there's this huge lottery mindset. And I think that leads us to looking for the silver bullet. And certainly sometimes there are silver bullets in our business. And I would say even hiring a great assistant instead of a underpowered $4 an hour assistant overseas is, in a sense, kind of a silver bullet. I would really encourage you, though, to remember that when it comes to delegating and getting yourself out of the work that you really don't like doing, you need to remember that entrepreneurs often die death by 1,000 paper cuts. 10 minutes here to format this blog post, 20 minutes there to send this email broadcast, 15 minutes to coordinate for a podcast, send a headshot and a bio. All of that stuff adds up so quickly, and we end up dying death by 1,000 paper cuts. So I'm telling you, it's time to stop the suffering. No more hours each night cleaning out your email inbox. No more doing the tech work that you hate doing. Like literally, you can run your business pretty much without ever logging into like Lead Pages or ConvertKit or Infusionsoft or whatever you're using, or GoToMeeting or whatever. I mean, I logged in to GoToWebinar today just to do the presentation. I didn't set up the webinar at all. So you can stop that suffering as well. And you can also stop the suffering that happens every time you see awesome opportunities slip through your fingers where you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table. You don't need to suffer anymore. So this is part 2 we've completed. We started with vision, then we got to delegate, and now we're into hire, which is the third part of today's presentation. Now, there's a huge cost of hiring the wrong person. There's a study by Humetrics that says that the hiring success rates for hourly workers is literally less than 50%. So we're talking, it's like even in the best of situations, you have a 50-50 chance as an everyday entrepreneur. The cost of hiring is oftentimes hiring the wrong person is often triple the cost of hiring them in the first place. Lost productivity, time, energy, and money. The cost of retraining someone, like a new assistant, is a huge pain in the ass. And while you're off trying to figure this out and do this repeat all the mistakes that you've made, there's an opportunity cost, right? Instead of you being out getting new business or creating new products, you're now teaching a second or third or fourth assistant how to do what it is that you need to do at the basic level. This really hits hard for me when I see clients. We had a client call me and ask for some help. We kind of talked to her about the process, and she said she'd actually just rather do it on her own. And that's cool. If someone wants to go do it yourself, you absolutely can. I figured it out all on my own, as you heard. I would say that these days, if I were to do it entirely on my own, it would probably take me about 50 hours. And that's a lot of work. And that's doing the process that I'm about to show you of where to find and how to screen and whatnot, which we'll talk about just in a moment. So she actually called me back 18 months later and said, you know what, Tim, I've burned through 3 assistants. This has not gone well. I wish I would have signed up with you 18 months ago. And so it was kind of a tough call. So let's take a look at your options. So the first option, if you go overseas, that's the red box. An overseas person can help you with simple tasks. In an Amazon business, that's like editing photos, which you just end up doing like 1,000 times, or data entry. For me, if I were to have a live event and I wanted to manually add all of the attendees into my CRM, that's data entry. That is stone simple tasks. If that's all you've got in your business, then an overseas assistant for $4 an hour, $6 an hour, whatever, India, Pakistan, the Philippines, et cetera, that can work for you. Just understand that the ceiling on what they can do for you is extremely, extremely low. If you want to start getting up into an assistant who can help you not only with tasks, but also simple decisions, thus relieving you from a lot of the stuff like email inbox, travel planning, coordinating, maintaining, et cetera, dealing with customers, on and on, you got to come overseas. You got to come North American. I want someone who's going to be similar or same time zone, similar, same culture, and same first language. It just works the best. Now, if you happen to be in Australia or New Zealand or a very different part of the world, don't get a North American assistant. Get someone from Australia or New Zealand. Now, if what you want is an assistant who can grow with you and do some of the extraordinary things I've shared with you today, who can do, yes, the tasks and the simple decisions and can graduate into the hard decisions and even being able to delegate entire outcomes, a long-term great assistant is the solution. So again, we want someone similar, same time zone, similar same culture, same first language, and long-term is such a big deal. So it's actually not enough for them to be just North American. We need you to be expecting long-term, and we need them to be thinking long-term as well. So if you hire like a 19-year-old college student who just wants to try out being an assistant, that's not okay. That does not work. I want someone who wants to work for the next 3 years or longer as an assistant. Now, I get it. Sometimes your life is going to change and you're going to have to end the relationship, or sometimes the assistant's life is going to change unexpectedly and they're going to have to end the relationship. That's life. But let's start from the place in the first place with, we want to be at this together for at least 3 years. Like a great investment, an assistant is an asset that gets better and better and better and better over time, to the point where, as Sarah says, she's the second half of my brain. She can anticipate things for me. Implicitly, she just knows me. It's so, so, so powerful. So this is Lisa Shield, another success story. She's in Los Angeles. She's a matchmaker, so she helps men and women find the love of their dreams. She's been with her assistant for over a year now. She says that getting a great assistant was the best money she's ever spent. Her assistant is amazing, and that finding the right assistant might truly be the most important job of running any successful business. She's just done so, so well. She's really thrived. So where can you find an assistant? Let's start at the very top, posting on Facebook. Hey, who knows someone, right? And that's a very do-it-yourself. There's also talking to your neighbors, relatives, sister-in-law, or spouse. That's a common path. You could also go online classifieds like Craigslist. You could go to online job sites like Indeed or Guru or Monster. And those all have kind of so-so success rates. They're not zero, but it's like, this is where you're oftentimes going to be less than 50%. And the retention rates of how long the assistant stays with you are also lower. If you start getting some done-for-you help, you work with a matching service that will match with a decent person. That really helps. However, a matching service on its own doesn't give you the full service. They're not actually teaching you how to delegate. They're not there to help consult. They're not helping you to manage the relationship in those first crucial 90 days. That's what a matching service is. Then a full service is a company that will match and train and consult. Not only that, they actually have a pool of better assistants that are not available to the general public. So let's talk. So whichever way you end up going, here's what a good screening process looks like. This is how I hire my teammates today. And if I'm doing it on my own, it would probably take me at least 50 hours. I guess because I have a lot of experience, I'm probably a little quicker. So maybe budget more like 70, 80, maybe even 100 hours to do this on your own. So I want 50 to 100 applicants coming in. I'm going to budget 50 to 100 hours. I'm going to construct a perfect job posting. So the first paragraph says, if you're interested in this job, in red font, Courier 12 point, tell me the first reason. Then the next paragraph needs to be black, Helvetica. Last is blue, Times New Roman. So now they have to jump through some hoops. Once they jump through those hoops, if they're successful, I'm going to put them through some work tests to see how they work. Then I'm going to put them through some technology tests. Then I'm going to put them through some cognitive tests using Colby, and also some other psychometric assessments, including a cognitive test. We use a tool that's only available to enterprises. It's called Hire Select. And then from there, then we get into interviews, and that gets us down to like the top 2 or 3 candidates. So those are the 3 steps. Vision, delegate, and hire. That's 10 years all smushed down into 45 minutes. I can't believe how fast the time has gone by. And I'm telling you, I truly, truly believe that no entrepreneur can fulfill their potential. No entrepreneur can make their full contribution. No entrepreneur can build the business that is inside of them waiting to happen unless you've got a great assistant. Now, if you're interested in knowing how our team could do this for you, you can head over to greatassistant.com/apply. Someone from our team, probably Peter, will end up meeting with you. In that meeting, it's between 45 and 60 minutes long. I am as you can tell from this presentation, I hate hype and I hate pressure. And so Peter is aligned with me on that. You don't have to worry about it being a timeshare presentation or a pressure-filled network marketing presentation. In fact, I give you full permission to hang up on Peter if at any point you feel like it's getting to be too much pressure or anything like that. And I'm telling you also that if you were to hang up on him, you would be the first person to ever do that, because Peter is a super upbeat, kind person. We really just want to help people on their path wherever they may be. So again, that's greatassistant.com/apply. Now, I made a promise that this webinar would be done in 45 minutes. It's been 44 minutes. And if you got to go, I totally get it. You can head off. I'm also willing to stick around for the next 30 minutes, if need be, to answer whatever questions that you've got. So if you've got questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box. I will be super happy to answer anything that you've got. Okay, I got a bunch coming in here. Okay, so first question is, I don't see the 2 links. Okay, no problem. Can someone please put it in again? All right, let me put, yeah. So GoToMeeting has 2 features. It has the chat box and then it has the question box. And oftentimes things get lost because someone thinks it's one way, and then so I'll send that to all, and then I'm going to send, whoops. All right, and the second link, let's see if we can get this to work. Well, I'm not that good at it. So if someone maybe could put in the question box to all, greatassistant.com/100 tasks, and then the other is profitfactory.com/360 delegation. If you still can't remember that or something, just send us an email to support@profitfactory.com, and we'll make sure that we send you the links. Okay, great. Next question. Is this recording accessible after the session? So Ada, I'm curious to know why you're asking about that. If maybe it's for you, you didn't catch the second half. Maybe you can just give me a clarifier. I just put that into the answer box. I would love that. Okay, next question, Sherman Daly. Will you share this webinar after? Same thing. Perfect. Yeah, so Sherman, if you could just put it in the chat box. Why is it that you're curious? I'm happy to answer. Next question. Could you please go over vision? It appears you went too fast. Okay, so vision, Mooney, I love that question. And what I would say to that is, I think that when we can understand what's possible, when I thought that an assistant would simply upload podcast episodes for me, that was a very small vision. And the problem with that was, as soon as Sarah learned how to upload podcast episodes, then she had no more work to do. Now, that didn't happen because I had vision, but I'm talking about actually my previous assistants. They would be like, Tim, got it done. I'm super happy. They'd be super proud. They'd be looking for a pat on the back. I would give that to them. And then after that, it'd be like, okay, what's next? And then I started to panic. And because I didn't see the vision of how an assistant could grow with me beyond the first 5, 10, 15 tasks, I ended up really feeling awkward. It was awkward for her, and nobody was getting to where they wanted to go. So I think vision for me is, it's not as much like a step by step as it's kind of a perspective. So Mooney, I don't know if that answers your question or not. If you'd like me to expand, maybe send me an email, support@profitfactory.com, and I'll be happy to expand further. Okay, Barbara is saying thank you. That's wonderful. Okay, Constantine. Oh, Constantine, yes. Nice to see you here, friend. Constantine, I know you're in Calgary, and it's been a few years since we've chatted. Okay, so his question is, how to delegate emails using Gmail Online or the programs. Make sure your assistant doesn't see interact transfers and some of the very personal emails from certain people, like your wife, without creating a secret email. Okay, so Constantine, so the scope of today's webinar is on how to get a great assistant. I probably could, well, I know that I could teach how to get a great assistant, how to delegate your email inbox, and that's kind of like a 1 to 2 hour process to teach that. So I probably can't squish that down into like a 90-second to 3-minute answer for you. I'll tell you that building a secret email inbox is not the answer. I'll tell you that having a great assistant is the most important part of all that, and the rest of it is just some simple plumbing. And so when I think about delegating email, it's really about kind of getting over the fear of someone else controlling things. Now, a few of the really common questions that we get are, does Sarah impersonate me? No, Sarah does not impersonate me. In fact, we've got this little snippet that we use all the time, and when somebody writes me an email, the snippet that Sarah will put at the start says, you know, hi Constantine, this is Sarah, Tim's assistant. I thought you would appreciate the fastest possible reply, so I jumped in to answer your email before Tim got to it. And so one of the concerns entrepreneurs oftentimes have is, oh, well, you know, an assistant, I mean, who wants to talk to your assistant when we want to talk to Tim? No, that's the wrong way to look at it. I can actually serve my clients best if they get the fastest possible reply. And if it's something that Sarah legitimately can't answer, then she'll just put it into my part of my inbox. And secondly, if I can't answer because I'm on the road or I'm flying or I'm on vacation or something, she'll just say, Tim's not available for the next week, but I'll make sure that he sees this upon his return. So it's a big question, Constantine. Hopefully those 2 snippets kind of help a little bit. And you know, with our Great Assistant program, we have some advanced training that's available for the assistants that come through our program. And one of them actually is a module on how to take over your entrepreneur's email inbox. And it's like a 2-hour training, and the assistant understands soup to nuts what to do so they can actually lead you through it, and then they become the expert. Okay, great. Next question. Ada, how about you folks in Europe? My service cannot help you at this time as far as a done-for-you service. The tactics will work. You know, the same 3 parts as far as vision, delegate, and hire that we talked about today, all of that is exactly the same. The only difference is where you would go to source your assistant in the first place, whether you do it yourself or through someone else. So Ada, I do have a contact in Europe who might be a good fit for you. She's in the UK. She helps people to find teammates, to help, I think she helps find assistants as well. So send us an email, support@profitfactory.com. And we can link you up with her. Okay, Mooney, so what's the best way to test if your assistant is loyal to you? Ooh, this is a very interesting question. So Mooney, could you maybe clarify that a little bit more, put it in the chat box? Like, are you worried about an assistant leaving? Or are you worried about them stealing? Or are you worried about them working behind your back with multiple people? Maybe you could clarify that for me in the box, and I'll get right back to that. Peter put in the 2 links, so profitfactory.com/360 delegation, then greatassistant.com 100 tasks. Thank you, Peter. Okay, Bradford, what about sensitive information with account numbers? Okay, so the way that we handle that is in the very beginning, Sarah did not handle that data. She just didn't. I didn't trust her in the beginning. I think a big part of growing with an assistant is risk management. And I think that in the very beginning, there's a lot of unknown. I don't know my assistant. I haven't had any experience with her. I don't even know if she knows how to handle the data properly because we just haven't been working side by side yet. And so I think that what I'm aiming for in the beginning is, how do I take risk, which might feel like this huge leap over the Grand Canyon, and how do I narrow it down so that the leap doesn't feel like the Grand Canyon? Maybe it just feels like, you know, jumping over a small valley. And then from there, what else can I do to reduce risk even more? So it's not jumping a valley, it's jumping just over a pool or something. And how do I reduce risk even further so that it feels like I'm just jumping over like a little crack in the sidewalk? Now, obviously I can still stub my toe on a crack in the sidewalk and skin my knee and fall down, but the risk is way, way, way smaller. So the things that I've done to manage risk with Sarah, in the beginning, like I said, I didn't give her any confidential information. I didn't give her my passport or my credit card. I didn't give her access to private client data. In fact, I didn't even let her use the CRM in the beginning because that had contact information of all of our customers. I didn't let her do any of that. So what I delegate in the first place manages risk big time. Secondly, who I hire makes a huge difference as well. I don't trust the legal system and in India or Pakistan or the Philippines, and nor do I know how to navigate it. I mean, it's there. Some people are adept at it. I trust the legal system in the United States and Canada if I had to sue an assistant. I also trust the police network in the United States and Canada. I can get a background check that I trust within a day or two, sometimes within a few minutes, depending on the state that I'm hiring from. And that gives me so much confidence. I would have no idea how I could get a criminal record check that I could trust from India. And maybe it's available, but I would always have this lingering doubt. What if there's a bribe here? What if there's corruption? Like I've just heard so many horror stories. So having a legal and police network that I trust and I know how to navigate allows me to do the background checks. Furthermore, culturally, I feel like I could I could do some background checks on people that Sarah's worked for in the past, and within reason, I would be able to trust that recommendation as much as I could trust it. Whereas I know that culturally, for example, in the Philippines, they talk about, like they're so polite. They just say yes to everything. They don't want to offend anyone. Like it's almost impossible. And then in India, it's like they'll just say yes to everything. Ask them if they could build the Taj Mahal for $5 now, they'd say yes. And I'm overgeneralizing, but I am speaking from my experience, and my experience is true. My experience is what I've had, and I've had that so many times in a row. I just don't want to deal with that. And I know that's not fair to everybody in those countries. It's not a blanket statement that's true of everyone in those countries. That's just really been my experience. And how many dozen times do I have to have that experience before I say, I'm going to keep this simple. I'm just going to stay stateside. Bradford, I would also think about, how can you start with a trial with your assistant? Like everybody that we match up with Great Assistant, it's a 90-day trial, so that if it's just not working for you, then you can opt out, right? And actually the assistant can opt out as well if they don't enjoy working for you because they discover that you were really nice in the beginning but you weren't later, right? Like it's a teammate situation, right? So I think all those things for me really reduce the risk. And then over time, as the relationship built and I saw some real character moments from Sarah, I went, you know what, this is someone that I can trust with the next step. And it was probably, I don't know, a few years before she got my credit card. And it was only like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago that I gave her my passport number to check me in for flights and stuff like that. So I would think of it more in a progressive way. Okay. Next question. Billy says, I was running behind and logged in late. Will there be a replay to help catch me up on Vision and Delegate? Billy, email me on that. And I don't know if this has been fully recorded. It might be. And if so, possibly we can send that over to you maybe. We'll see what happens. Okay, Ada, next question. I'm in the process of planning my project. I know I'll need an assistant a few months down the road. Okay, so Ada, one of my favorite expressions is dig the well before you need the water. Because if you are totally parched and exhausted and dehydrated, that's not the time to pick up a shovel and spend 5 hours digging a well to get to the water. So I'm telling you, almost not every, but way too many entrepreneurs that approach us and ask for help should have called us 6 months earlier, and now they are in full-blown crisis. Hair's on fire. Their launch is happening in 2 weeks, and it's really a horrible time to try and bring on a new team member, get them up to speed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Ada, I don't know if now's the right time for you. Book a call with Peter at greatassistant.com/apply, and he can sort that out with you if now's the right time. If at any point he feels it's not the right time, you can count on him to just say, you know what, this just isn't right. Likewise, if at any point you feel it's not the right time, you can just say, you know what, let's just wrap up this call early. It's clear this is not a fit. Let's just move on with our day. So Ada, I really commend you for looking down the road, because getting someone in place now could be the difference of the project that you've got coming up. Okay, Sherman. So you're saying you'd like to review and digest the webinar. You also may have missed some part of the webinar. Okay. Yeah. So Sherman, just email us, support@profitfactory.com. And if there's a replay available, then we will get that sent over to you. I also will be presenting this webinar again. And if for some reason the replay didn't get recorded or something, I'll email you with advance notice to let you know when the next presentation of this is going to be, so then you can capture all of it. Okay, Dennis, do you use Slack or Trello? How do you manage communication with your assistant? Okay, so we use Convo, and I like using email is just a horrible idea because it's too distracting. Do we use Trello? Yes. We use it amongst actually our whole team to keep track of projects. And how do we manage communication with your assistant? So there's Convo that we use instead of Slack, and that's kind of for team communication and for project, and delegating things back and forth, kind of like a workflow tool. As far as just like pinging each other and kind of having a chat, there is one of those features in Convo, but I actually way prefer WhatsApp, and we can just quickly go back and forth. Some people use Voxer and are huge fans of Voxer for just that quick, hey, just letting you know, I just sent you a 360D in Convo, like that kind of thing. Much, much more effective. Okay, Mooney, you would love further clarification. Okay, and that's why you'd like to replay. Okay, so again, just email us, Mooney, to support@profitfactory.com. And we will, if there's a replay, again, we'll make sure that gets to you, or we'll let you know when the next live webinar is. Okay, Fred, do we have the ability to go from part-time to full-time? So Fred, if you are going to do this yourself, then that's just something that you would simply say in the beginning to your assistant. You'd put that right in the job posting, in the beginning. I'm looking for just 10 hours a week, and there's an opportunity to grow. If you're doing that through us, same thing. You would just let Nancy know, who you would end up working with, that you probably only have about 10 hours a week to work with in the beginning, but that you're looking for someone to grow with you, and she can help you find that. And this, Fred, thanks for asking this question. This really brings up why we began this webinar with vision. If this is just about getting 5 hours a month worth of help, then go use a different service. It's just not going to be worth the heartache and headache if it's just a little task here, a little task there. If we're looking at 10 hours a week and you're looking for someone to literally take over big chunks, you want them to take over your email inbox, you want them to help you execute, marketing campaigns, you want them to help you eventually with maybe even delivering parts of your service, that's what a great assistant does. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about vision, is how can this person grow into taking maybe multiple parts of the business off your plate until you have, say, the budget or something to hire a full-blown marketing person or a full-blown operations person or a COO or get a business partner or something like that. Next question, Mooney, how do you know what an assistant you interview is the one for you? What's the best way to determine that? Okay, so I showed you that long list, that 50 to 100 hour process. That's what we do to weed out the people that are really clearly not a fit in the first place. So what I mean by that is, if someone is not able to use technology, I want to know that before I spend half an hour to an hour getting to know them. If there's someone who isn't interested in a 3-year position, or a position that could be at least 3 years, and again, you don't have to commit to 3 years with them, but just that mindset, I want to know that before they end up spending an hour with me. It'd be kind of like if we talked about a parallel to dating. If you want to date someone in your city who's an entrepreneur in a certain age range, you kind of want to know all of that before you spend 2-3 hours having dinner getting to know them, right? So just think through all of that, and I give you a list of all the different tools and steps that we take, and that's why all that's there. So that actually we're already at 60-70% of the way before we've ever actually talked to them live on a Skype call or on a Zoom call or something, or a phone call, something like that. The Kolbe Index, also hugely important. If you don't know what Kolbe is, you can look that up online. Everyone on my team, I know everyone's Kolbe score, every one of our clients, it's mandatory to go through the Kolbe test so we can understand where you're at. And then also every assistant that we bring in through our program, everyone gets a Kolbe test so we can understand the match of everyone. That also all comes before the interview. I know that sounds quite extensive, and it is. So by the time I'm sitting down with someone in person, and back when I was doing all the assistant hiring, or nowadays when Nancy's doing all the hiring, by the time we sit down with them, we've already disqualified probably 80 to 85 applicants, and we're down to like 10 or 15, something like that. And now we're assigning the Colby test because it does cost money. So we leave that to one of the last steps, and then only after that are we then sitting down. And at that point, we really know that it's mostly a question of kind of chemistry and how did they show up on the call. I'm less concerned about the content of what is said on the call and more on like, how's this person's English? Are they personable? Can I get along with them? Did they show up looking prepared, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Mooney, I could probably spend an hour going on just this one question, like interview techniques and whatnot. Hopefully that helps you get a little further down the path. And if you'd like to ask another question, I'm certainly happy to answer that as well. Okay, Constantine, another question. Could you please send me info about that training? As I got an assistant, I'd like to meet you for lunch near Calgary. Constantine, that's wonderful. So Constantine, I'm doing a live event in Calgary. It's going to be a version of this presentation, and we're also going to have a kind of like a meet and greet afterwards and hang out. So Constantine, could you please send us an email, support@profitfactory.com, and just say, hey, saw Tim on the webinar, I'm in Calgary, want to hang out, and we'll give you all the information. It's actually going to be a great networking opportunity too, because there's going to be lots of entrepreneurs there, all who are very passionate and committed to being in excellence as entrepreneurs. It's not the 4-hour workweek crowd that just wants to like do as little as possible. We want entrepreneurs that are striving for excellence and are really committed to their growth. So great room for you to be in, Constantine. And on that note, also, like that applies to every city I've mentioned. So if you're in Edmonton, you're in Calgary, you're in Denver, if you are in Austin, those events are all coming up. Just send us an email, support@profitfactory.com. We can give you the details. Come and meet me in person. Come hang out. If you've got some more questions, I can answer those as well. And also, I'll say this too, if you're in a city that you'd like me to come to, please send us an email, and maybe that can happen as well. Okay, so Ada has said, could you please type out your contact information? So Peter, could you just put that in the box? So it's support@profitfactory.com. So Ada, just look at the list of questions and look for Peter's note for support@profitfactory.com. Okay, so Mooney, another question. I'm worried if someone works behind my back, and you've had this happen before. Okay, so Mooney, I think what you're asking is what happens if someone works for someone else behind your back. So I think that's just about being upfront about your expectations. If you're going to hire someone for 10 hours a week, you have to be okay with them working for potentially someone else. I mean, it's a free world. We can all spend our time however we want, right? At the end of the day. So kind of looping back to Bradford, something else that I do around risk management is I actually have my teammates sign a few different agreements. So one of them is a confidentiality agreement that what they learn about the business, what they learn about our clients, the names and information of our clients, all of that is confidential. And so I have a confidentiality agreement drawn up by a lawyer that everyone signs. I also have an intellectual property agreement in place. And so that says that any intellectual property that I come up with, including systems and procedures, as well as any intellectual property my assistant or any of my team members comes up with, maybe they write a procedure or maybe they come up with a nifty new way to do things that we end up rolling out to all of our clients. All of that intellectual property, the moment it gets created, becomes the property, becomes my property, and everyone signs that before they come in. So now you can start seeing that if you have an assistant that's working for someone else, first of all, through your conversation, you'll probably find that out in the beginning. And even if you don't find that out in the beginning, if any of your intellectual property, again, whether that's a marketing tactic or whether that is a piece of marketing collateral, or whether that's a checklist or something like that, they cannot take it somewhere else. And if they do, you can sue them. And I'm telling you, oftentimes that on its own is enough of a statement that they just won't. Now, I am not a lawyer, so I can only tell you what I've done and what my experience has been. And if you want to get deeper into agreements and what proper agreements you should have in place, definitely talk to a lawyer. And if Mooney, I've not answered your question, then I can possibly take this from another direction. Yeah, it wasn't because you weren't mean to her. Great, good, Mooney. I'm glad that you weren't mean to your assistant. Believe it or not, you guys, and I'm saying this to everyone. I've looked at tons of studies on why people quit, and I don't mean just assistants. I mean like any role. And it's, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like over 50% of why people quit of all jobs of all levels is because they just hated their boss. It had nothing to do with pay. It had nothing to do with the kind of work they were doing. It had nothing to do with opportunities for advancement. It had nothing to do, like it's like all the reasons that we think someone would want to quit, those were all secondary to they just hated their boss. Their boss was a dick. Their boss was just a jerk, or mistreated them, or just didn't appreciate them, or something like that. So it's amazing how much just being a nice person is a big deal. And so Mooney, sounds like you've been a nice person to your assistant. My hat goes off to you. Okay, Kevin is asking, can I hire a part-time grade assistant? I'm concerned I don't have enough tasks for full-time work. Kevin, absolutely yes. Our assistants are expecting between $17 to $20 an hour, which is exactly the same range that I mentioned at the very start of the presentation. And secondly, they're expecting at least 10 hours a week. And so you can just start there. Start small, man. We've also had a number of clients that have said, I kind of felt like I was on the bubble. I wasn't too sure. Then I started into the program and I started working with Nancy. I started going through some of the training materials and I started realizing, okay, actually, maybe I do have a few more tasks. Then I got my assistant, started handing off the first few things. I got the hang of it. Like a muscle, the more I exercised it, the better I got. And holy smokes, I can't believe that I didn't realize that I had over 10, like at least 10 hours, because I have like 20 hours a week for my assistant. So that may not be your case, Kevin. I'm not too sure. Book a chat with Peter at greatassistant.com/apply. And he can, have a further conversation to sort some of that out with you. Great question, Kevin. Thank you. Mooney, okay. Also, how do I ensure that I'm not too nice to her either? Need clarification. Okay, so Mooney, what I really appreciate, like Mooney, I really deeply appreciate how much you're thinking about your leadership ability. And part of why I really appreciate that is two reasons. Number one is I didn't think about that in the beginning. When I screwed it up so many different times in so many different ways, my leadership was such a big deal. So I know how I screwed it up, I guess. And I also know how much the better I've gotten as a leader for Sarah. And actually now my assistant Sarah has her own assistant, Courtney, and kind of between the three of us, we're just like this, awesome team within our larger team. And like just the better I've gotten as a leader, the higher we've gone and the deeper that we've gone, which has been really super, super powerful. And so I think that Mooney, a huge part of this is just expectations in the beginning. And I think that, it's just a matter of being clear and saying, hey, it's not that I'm a good person or a bad person. It's not that you're a good person or a bad person. Here's the objectives. Here's the outcomes of what I'm looking for. And this is not about me and it's not about you. It's about this great business that we're building, whatever your business is. And I'm here to nurture it. And now that you're my assistant, you're on my team, you're here to nurture it. We're kind of like the parents of this thing. Let's be together as we build this great business. And if you need your assistant to do something, it's not because you're a tyrant boss or they're a subservient slave. It's that, hey, we've got customers and they need some help. And right now, I'm the surgeon. However, I'm having to do the paperwork and I'm also the one who's setting up the surgery room and I'm cleaning it up afterwards. And it's preventing me from doing more surgeries, which would save more lives. So this is not a question of you're a prima donna rock star who's, kind of like telling all the little people what they need to do. That's not it. In fact, and I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying some people worry about, oh, am I too egotistical because I'm giving all the work I don't want to do to someone else? Not at all. Not at all. You are literally serving the world better by you sticking to surgery and the nurse sticking to the nurse and the administrator doing the administrator. You are also creating an incredible opportunity for someone to work in your business. you may not realize this, and you could look this up. There's study after study shows the demand for work, for flexible work from home opportunities is crushing. It was 94 or 97% of all Americans wish they could work from home at least part-time. And of those that wanted to work from home, 67% wish they could work from home full-time. The problem is that out there in the big wide world, the number of jobs that offer full-time or part-time work from home is still like a tiny percentage. And so people aren't able to raise their kids. They're not able to be with their ailing parents. They're not, like, some people hate just having the grind of commuting an hour into work every day. And after the cost of childcare and all the rest, they realize, oh my God, for like not that much of a pay cut, I can work from home in my yoga pants. I get to have the Kodak moments, which are priceless with my children. Like, sign me up for that. And I can't tell you how many messages I've also received, not just from my own assistants, but from other assistants in our program that say, thank you. I was looking high and low for this kind of an opportunity because I did not want to miss my child growing up. You've literally changed the direction of my life. And that's the assistants saying that. So we've got entrepreneurs saying that to us and assistants. Believe me, you creating an opportunity here, it's not about you giving crap work to someone and work you hate. This is about everyone doing what their zone of genius is and them making the right contribution for the right fit. Hopefully that helps to give you the perspective that I believe is healthy, accurate, and most workable. Okay, Bradford says, awesome, thanks. Most welcome, my friend. Billy Tam says, thank you. Ada says, Tim, that's great. Thank you, you're right. Bradford says, would a GA do anything by phone? Okay, so Bradford, I think that this is another Tim Francis original here. So maybe you've heard the expression before that good, fast, cheap, you can only ever have two of the three. So if you think about it, let's say you have a little fender bender, you bump into someone, or you bang a door in a parking lot or something like that. If you want to get the dent removed from your car, if you want it to be good and you want it to be fast, you want it to be good, a good job fixing your car, and you want it to be fast, it is not going to come cheap, right? If you want this thing perfect job, dent removed in 48 hours or less or 24 hours or less, that's going to cost you. Likewise, if you want it to be fast and cheap, it's not going to be very good, right? We're talking like duct tape. If you want it to be cheap and you want it to be good, it's not coming very fast because you're going to have to ask your uncle to work on it on the weekends in his spare time, and it's going to take weeks to get done, right? So good, fast, cheap, you can only ever have two of the three. When it comes to hiring talent, and this is an assistant or anyone, okay, we've got a similar situation where you can only ever have two of the three. And the three are not good, fast, cheap. The three are skill, compensation, and working conditions. So if you want someone who's really skilled and you want them to work in your conditions, so you want a really skilled person who's going to work 9 to 5, they're going to be on location for you, they're going to be on call 9 to 5 to answer the phone all the time. If you want them to be skilled and you want them to be working in your working conditions, that is not going to come cheap, right? That is the compensation is going to be very expensive for that. You're going to have to hire someone for like $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year to do that for you. And that's part of the magic of what we're offering and what getting a virtual assistant is you can say to an assistant, you know what, I'm going to give you the working conditions. I'm going to let you work from home. I'm going to let you work a somewhat or maybe entirely flexible schedule of when you get the work done. And in return, I want the other two. I want someone who's skilled, and I want someone who is going to be affordable as far as their hourly rate. So that's how in our program we're able to attract assistants that are $17 to $20 an hour, so they're affordable, and they're skilled. They're coming out of corporate America, they're coming out of government America, they're coming out of professional America. Like Sarah was a legal assistant before she joined me, right? Courtney worked inside a professional. She helped with events. for some high-end brands before she ever came to Great Assistant as part of my team, one of my assistants. So Bradford, my question is less, will the assistant take phone calls? Because Sarah does make phone calls. You know, she will call to book a haircut. She'll book a dental appointment. She'll also call around to get quotes on hotels that we might do presentations at. She can also call some of our clients if there's something that's needed. If clients want to talk to her for some reason, they can call our 1-800 number. It creates a voicemail message that gets sent to her, and then she can call them back when she gets a shot. So I've said to Sarah, hey, I'm going to need some daytime availability to take a call here and there, but I don't need you to be on call 9 to 5. So Bradford, the question for me is less about will the assistants do anything by phone, and it's more about what are the working conditions you're willing to offer. And I think that's probably the bigger deal. Okay, so Bradford, your next question is as far as calling a client to schedule something. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think if you set that expectation up front, and especially if you can be flexible, if you can tell your assistant, hey, it doesn't, you know, you don't need to make all calls between like 12 and 5 every single day. Like if you can give them a little flexibility, say sometime between, you know, business hours when you get a shot, when you get a few minutes, call our client, set up something. And now you're giving them their flexibility back, and now that's much more flexible. And just tell Nancy that when you sign up that you're looking for that. Holy smokes, you guys, we got tons more comments and questions here. Okay, okay, this is awesome. This is so awesome. I am so honored that I get to be a part of your success story. And you guys, whether I get to help you. Full-blown, you become a client, and we are your partner in finding a great assistant, or whether you choose to simply take the tips you've gotten today and do it yourself, or maybe for you this is something you go, oh, yeah, I want to work with Great Assistant, however I'm not quite ready yet. Wherever you are on that spectrum, I am so honored that I get to be a part of your success story. I'm going to take maybe like maybe one or two more questions here, and then any other questions that you've got, please email them in, and you've got my word that myself or Peter, whoever kind of seems to fit best for the situation, we will email you back. We will email you back to get with you, make sure that you get your question answered. Okay. Bradford, question. Can we listen to your interviews with the top 2 to 3? Okay, Bradford, thank you for asking that. So what happens is if someone becomes a client of ours, we're going through that super long process. We're going through all the steps to generate a top 2 or 3, and then you get to choose. Okay, so Bradford, you got 1 of 2 choices here. One, some of our clients say, you know what? You guys are the pros. Just bring me the top number one person you think will be the best fit, and I'll say yes or no. And if it's a no, then we'll move on to the next person. That's a yes or no. If not, then we move on to the third person, yes or no. If that's your vibe, that's what we'll do for you. Now, other people will say, I got a different philosophy. I want you guys to take me, all the way down the field, take me to the 5-yard line, and then give me 2 or 3, and I want to interview 2 or 3 myself. And at that point, you get an opportunity to maybe compare the 2 or 3, because some people, that's just their approach. Neither approach is right or wrong. Different people just have different philosophies and different experiences, and we're good to go with that. Now, the one thing that I'll say is if you interview, let's say 2, because that's what you want, is you want to interview 2. If you want to hire both of them, I would just ask, and this is a little bit of a gentleman's agreement, that if you're going to hire both of them, make sure you let us know, and we would ask you to pay a fee for the second person as well. It'd be a reduced fee, but a second fee for the second person as well. Because we've gone through such heartache to develop our proprietary method, and we've gone through such a long process. It is unbelievable the amount of stuff that happens behind the scenes. It's kind of like when you go to Starbucks or somewhere like that, and there's a drive-through window. You get to show up at the driveway window, the order board. You say what your order is. Then you just show up at the next window, and there you go, there's your drink or there's your food. And you don't see all the machinery behind the scenes. You don't see like the Santa's workshop of elves that are running around like making your stuff and talking to each other and all the rest. And so just to honor all the heartache and the value that we're bringing to the table, if you're going to hire the second person or the third person as well, please let us know. We can negotiate a reduced rate for the second and third person. And if we can help you get 3 assistants, just like we did with Nicole, I would be honored to do that. Okay. All right. Okay. I got to quickly just scan through these here. Okay. Kevin booked a chat. Thank you. Oh my goodness, so many questions here. Okay, Fred says, thank you so much for the opportunity for the great information. On another note, thank you for your great books. Looking forward to your next one, whatever it may be. Okay, thank you. I haven't written any books. I'm not Tim Ferriss, I'm Tim Francis. Hopefully I haven't confused anybody about that. But Fred, nonetheless, you've been on this webinar with me, and I am super grateful to be here. Fred, you got a couple other questions. Pay raises, is that up to you? Yes, that is up to you. Sarah is now beyond $17 to $20 an hour. She is not at $40 an hour, just to be clear about that. I don't want to get into the specifics of her pay because this is between her and I don't think she wants me to be broadcasting what she makes. I think you can understand that. I think that for me, Fred, it just became so clear to me that Sarah was bringing so much value that I was just like, in fact, every time Sarah's gotten a raise, it has not been because she's asked. It's because I went, oh my God, you've changed my life. Please let me give you a raise. And she goes, okay, sounds good. And then we keep working, and then something else happens, and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. That is so amazing. And let me give you a raise. And so, it's $1 an hour more, a couple dollars an hour, something like that, right? Each time. Now, Sarah does make mistakes. Let's be very clear about that. And so every human makes mistakes. She's not a robot. And she's, because she's here, she's in North America, because we've got this relationship, we work through it together. Like we're truly teammates. It is truly, truly, truly inspiring. So thank you, Fred, for bringing that up. I think that's a great spot to wrap up our presentation today. Even though I'm wrapping up the presentation, I'm not putting an end to the conversation. So if you have additional questions, please email us, support@profitfactory.com. And we will make sure that either Peter or I respond to you in the next 48 hours. And this also doesn't need to be the end of the conversation in the sense that you can book a session with Peter at greatassistant.com/apply. Get into his calendar. Now, Peter's a real human being. He's got the same 24 hours a day that you've got and I've got, so that means his calendar is limited. He's only got so many spots, and once a spot's taken by someone else, that spot's no longer available to you. So if you're thinking about it, get your name in ASAP and book a spot before his calendar gets booked up. Not only am I doing this webinar today, we actually did a webinar yesterday as well. I've got the speaking tour coming up over the next month, 4 different cities. Next talk is in just, I think, 8 or 9 days. That's when the first talk on the tour is. I know that's going to generate more bookings into Peter's calendar. It's free to book a session. Book it now. Get into his calendar so you don't get bumped out by everyone else. And I would just hate for you to have this burning question or two or a need or something like that, curious about our program, and you can't get the help that you want to talk to Peter for like 4 weeks or something like that because you waited to book. So go to greatassistant.com/apply. Go there right now. Get yourself booked in, and you'll be taken care of. A parting thought, my friends. A parting thought. I am so deeply moved by what it is that we get to do as entrepreneurs. Like, when I think about the vision of what we get to create on an everyday basis, it's moving. It is absolutely moving. I think about what we get to create for the world, the difference we get to make, the good that we get to do. I think about the way that we're able to fulfill our own dreams as entrepreneurs, like the time flexibility that is possible, the financial gain that's possible, the location freedom that's possible. and then I get into thinking about how we can serve those that we love the most, right? Whether that's our kids or our parents or our friends or our wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever life situation you might have, there are people who are important to you. And entrepreneurship is this incredible double-edged sword. The same world that can do all those fantastic things for us can also literally crush us. It can take us to our knees. In my case, I went so far, I'm a slow learner sometimes, you guys, that I literally had a health breakdown and I got sick. And the same world that brought me to my knees is the same world that has allowed me to literally go off the grid for an entire week on a holiday to Jamaica while my assistant took care of the business. The business didn't grow substantially, but it also didn't implode. I'll always remember coming home from that Jamaica trip. It was the first kind of time that I really deeply tested what was possible with my assistant, Sarah. The agreement was I was going off the grid for 6 days. I would do no phone, no email, no text messages, nothing. The only exception was halfway through the trip, I could turn my phone on once to see if any catastrophic event had happened. Now, you may not want to have as strict of a test. You may want to have, once a night you can check or something like that. But I did this test, and I couldn't believe when I turned my phone on day 3 that nothing happened. Like, the business was okay. There was no Mayday call from Sarah back in North America, right? So I was even more amazed when day 6 came, the trip was over. I had just had a spectacular trip, getting to rejuvenate, to actually be present with the people that I was with, to actually be present with myself, to get some space, to get some rejuvenation, to get some rest. And at the end of day 6, I turned on my phone again, and lo and behold, there was no crisis. Still no Mayday call from Sarah. I was even more amazed when I got home and I cracked open my laptop. I feared the worst. I feared that I would open up my email inbox, and because I'd been gone for 6 days, that there'd be 200 to 300 unread emails, and I would instantly regret taking the trip. That's what I worried about. It was like the welcome home avalanche of emails. That's what I was terrified of. I cracked open my laptop. I opened up Gmail. I closed my eyes as it was loading, afraid of what I was going to see. I opened my eyes. You know what was there? 18 emails. That was it. I took care of all of them in under a couple hours, and I realized I'd figured it out. The same world that had taken me to my knees, the world of entrepreneurship, was also the world that had given me the dream of being able to do the things that mattered most to me. This world of entrepreneurship is an extraordinary journey. And I think that it's there's a reason there's 2 pilots in every plane. There's a reason that, sports is played on a team basis. Even in an individual sport like tennis, there's still an army of team members behind the scenes, psychologists, nutritionists, trainers, et cetera, for every athlete, right? There's a reason surgery is a team, life is a team sport. And there's no way that I can extract every ounce out of this life if I try to be a solo or if I've got bad teammates. The quote that terrifies me more than anything is, hell is meeting the man I could have been. Hell is meeting the man I could have been. And on my watch, that is not happening. I'm here to build a great business. I'm here to live a great life. I'm here to do it without killing myself in the process. And I know that my path to all of that is absolutely hinges on me having a great assistant. So I encourage you to book in with Peter at greatassistant.com/apply. I'm deeply touched, moved, and inspired that you've allowed me to be a part of your day today and a part of your journey as an entrepreneur, because it is a very, very powerful place to be. So thank you for that. My name is Tim Francis. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to how our paths will cross, hopefully many times in the days, months, and years to come. Thank you so much.